And the
podcast
begins with a song of rebellion.
How can this
podcast.
be my life?
CD burners.
These are new. These are nice. I'll try not to make a mess either.
This is the Kelly Clarkson collection, I think.
Is it actually?
Yeah. I don't know where it's from, but Erin got it. She's like, yeah, it's Kelly Clarkson.
It's a great podcast couch.
Kelly Clarkson couch. I think they're from like Target. No, Wayfair.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Remember when everybody said that Wayfair was selling kids?
Yeah, that was weird.
Wait, that was a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, oh, this cabinet is $12,000 and it's named after a girl, so it's actually you're buying the girl. It's sex trafficking.
You're buying the girl inside the cabinet.
It was during the pandemic when everybody was so bored that they were putting like puzzle pieces together.
Conspiracies out the ass.
That was, to be honest though, that was like out of all of them, that was a fun one to be like, oh, this is so insane.
I would believe it.
Yeah.
I would run with it.
Yeah, I mean, I had some friends that were, and I don't know if they still are.
If they're QAnon?
Yeah, if they're still like trying to put all this stuff together.
Well, I don't want to get shadow banned or whatever from Spotify. So let's talk about what we're supposed to talk about here. Guys, welcome to the podcast. Derek from State Champs. Today we're talking about The Finer Things, the album from State Champs. It was your first full length.
Yep.
Came out October 8th, 2013. And as I was researching this, I was like, that's the day before Derek's birthday.
It is the day before my birthday.
Question number one is, what was that party like?
I don't know if there was a party.
Wasn't it your 21st?
That was my 21st birthday. We were on tour with Bayside and Motion
Okay.
City Soundtrack. It was our first big tour ever. And I think Motion City Soundtrack got me a cake. Bayside got me a bottle of Jameson.
Nice.
And that's all I really remember. Everything else is probably
Because
a
you
blur
drank
from
the
that.
Jameson
Must have been.
and-
You know what? I think Bayside was like, would you rather have a hotel room or a bottle of Jameson? And for whatever reason, I picked a bottle of Jameson.
Nice.
So so the
Were you
rest
guys
is
still in a
history.
van at that point?
Yeah, we were in a van at that point. I think it was our first ever real big support tour. What's Eating Gilbert was also on that tour. Chad Gilbert's side project.
Oh.
Yeah, that's oddly what I remember.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Did you guys open?
yeah, we were the first band, one of four.
It was 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Doing that whole shit. It's kind of hard to find stuff about this album and about you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like Joni, shout out Joni, who does like some of the notes for this. She said that Ryan is the only person in your band with a Wikipedia page.
Dude, and I'm fucking pissed about it.
Dude, we don't have a Wikipedia page either.
Well, I have a conspiracy that Ryan made his own Wikipedia page or paid somebody to do it.
Really?
So, but I mean, he probably didn't. But that's just my rebuttal to that.
Oh, I've been trying to get people to do one for us.
I know. I actually tried to too.
To get somebody to do it for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense why we don't have it. We're referenced. You're referenced
You
in
have
a ton of shit.
you have to have plenty of credible references and that's it. And
Yeah.
you just have to like notarize them or whatever.
Your name is in tons of articles. That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know.
It's
Whatever.
crazy.
Somebody make one for me.
Yeah.
If you're listening.
That's what we said, dude. We've been saying it.
The band has one, obviously.
2013. This is the first album. You guys wrote it in your bedroom.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Was it mostly you writing it, or like were you collabing with Tyler?
Yeah, I think it was myself, Tyler, and then Evan coming in, and like we all didn't really know what we were doing. Nobody knew how to write a song, write an album. We were just kind of shooting for the stars, nothing to lose. And then I think that's what was genuine about it, is that we were just like, let's have fun and write songs. We would hang out in like Tyler's parents' like toy game room and map out instrumentals of songs, and we would have this folder of like instrumentals, like planned out structured songs with no lyrics. And then I would sit at my house and like spend all night trying to write lyrics. I didn't know how to write lyrics, and it was all trial and error.
It is strange because there are articles. There are a lot of really good articles about this album that say that you have like the best voice. And did you know how to did you know how to sing?
No, I didn't really. I never had singing lessons or anything like that, but I kind of knew that I had some sort of gift that of the way I found out that I could sing and bringing it into that style of music. Like I like pop music, but I also liked sceney metalcore, like that has singing in it. So there was something kind of special about that, and then bringing it to pop punk, something that I had never heard before. So I like embraced that and was like, nobody sings like me. I had a total like young ego as a kid, like I'm the best at this shit.
Well, how'd you know? If you like didn't play in bands, you didn't write songs, you didn't know what you were doing. Were you just like singing in the car? Were you like, yeah, I can do this?
I come from singing in the car with my mom.
Yeah.
That's really like where I come from. Like I say I never had singing lessons, but my mom was a singer growing up in like bar bands, nothing professional or anything. So I come from singing like harmonies in the car with my mom, and my mom being like, here's the third of this Alanis Morissette song, you know, or this. And that's really where it all stems from. And then the rest is self-taught.
I think that's the best way to learn how to sing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
The best people honestly, some of the best musicians and the best singers I've ever met were like bar people.
Yeah. But then what comes with that is not knowing how to maintain it. And like, you're not knowing how to like take that into a steady tour process and having to do it every night or in a studio. I remember being in the studio for the Finer Things, and after maybe my first or second day of tracking vocals for the full day, lost my voice completely. And it was like, I don't know what the heck to do. And like, I was smoking weed at the time. We were drinking in the studio, and somebody was like, maybe you shouldn't do that. You know, like maybe you should take care of your shit. So I had to like make sure I was getting enough sleep and water. And I was like, oh, this is like the hard part about being in a band and being a singer, you know, for real.
Being healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe worry about your diet. I'm still
Yeah.
terrible with my diet, but at least like leading up to tours and being in the studio, I'm like, oh, drink a cup of tea with some honey in it every once in a while. Stuff like that. Like it was stuff like that I had to find its way into my routine, if you will.
I always thought that was bullshit, but it's like, actually it's true.
No, it is. It is. And I called bullshit on it for so long, but that was just me being young.
Yep.
Right. Now, especially being like a grown ass man and being like in our 30s on the road, it's like, maybe take care of your shit so you can do this the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I listened to the podcast that you did with Shane Told, and you guys like kind of talked a little bit about how now you've done actual vocal lessons, and you've had to implement all these sort of like changes to maintain. And like, obviously you did this album last year for the anniversary tour.
Yeah.
So you've done this album like as a teen when you like kind of didn't know how to sing. Now you've taken vocal lessons and you're singing these songs every single night. Like, how different is it physically for you to do these songs now, and also emotionally? Because like, obviously you wrote these songs when you were like a teenager, and here you are 10 years later, full adult man. Like, how different does it feel to sing these songs?
It doesn't feel too much different. People are like, is it weird singing stuff that's like 10, 12 years older now? Like, does it mean the same things to you? Some of them do, because some of the songs just mean more to me in general. But, and then physically too, it's like, well, over the years, you know, we have the luxury now of being a band that can like lower some of the keys if we need to. So, and like, I think we kind of need to. And like Elevated, for instance, since that song came out, I think we've always played it about a half step or a full step lower than what it originally is. Yeah. Just so that it's a little bit easier on my voice. And we do that. Every band does that, whether you like it or not. And whether you think that's a cop out, it's not. Every band does it. Some pop stars drop their songs like 5 keys, you know, and just so that they can do that.
Do people think that that's a cop?
I don't know.
I wouldn't.
I've never gotten shit for it. We've never have. I think a lot of people don't notice either. Yeah. Because it's just something that everybody does. But that definitely helps as one thing.
Ever catch yourself going back into like the normal key when you guys are doing it live? And
luckily, there's like, you know, everyone uses in-ear monitors now. So in my ear, it's like a deadly conversation. Dung, dung. It sets the piano key note before I have to start a song with vocals. So that therefore I'm not like jumping the gun and going a little too high with it or whatever. So that's something we had that we did not have 10 years ago when we were first starting. It was like Evan behind me counting with the hi-hat, and I have to guess where the song starts. So, you know, we've come a long way, I think.
Yeah. Did in-ears come naturally for you?
It was a lot of work at first. I was the kid that would always leave one out. Yeah. And that's like terrible for your hearing, apparently. Like if you leave one of them out, because I was like, oh, I can't hear the crowd. That was my main thing. I need to hear the crowd singing back. And if I can't hear them singing, I feel like we're doing a shit job as a band. Like if they're not singing back, that's how I gauge how the show's going. So then I had to find out, okay, well, you just have to dial your mix in a little bit better. And then I started keeping them in, and we implemented crowd mics into our set where the microphones pointed at the crowd. Smart. So I can turn those up in my ears too. Better experience.
100%.
Another
up,
like
100% crowd up.
That's growth. You know?
We've known you a long time.
Yeah. We go way back.
Almost when.
Yeah. I mean, State Champs like really started like breaking 2013 with this album. We started Emo Night 2014.
I know.
And I feel like you guys really started peaking, I think, in like 2016. Yeah. You know, like that was when you really started breaking out. And I feel like that was like kind of when Emo Night started breaking out too.
We talk about this a lot, how like we've grown and blossomed together as friends and business wise, and just like for our careers to grow at the same kind of like steam, if you will. Yeah. It's exciting.
Just knowing you for 10 years or so, I just would have never pictured you as a pop punk singer. You know what
do I look like?
Just like outside of it, like, I don't know, you love sport
Yeah, I'm like a total bro.
It's
aren't I?
awesome. It's one of my favorite. It's like really is like one of my favorite things, and I think it really works for like what you know the band and what you guys have going on. But it's not, and I think that you stand out in a lot of ways from other singers in the genre because you are just like you are have a very distinctive personality.
We
that-
talk about that with us as like a band. We're like four totally different guys, and we have like boy band aesthetic where it's like every person has their role, right? Like Tyler is like, well, now like dad mode glasses guy, and Ryan is like vintage 90s cool like aesthetic. Evan is like, you know, weirdo who likes metal or motocross, and I'm like the bro, like, you know, kind of like jock frat boy, if you will.
Really self-aware, right? Like really self-aware and like not. I feel like that it's a testament to the genre that like, you know, if you were to say those things about somebody in like another genre, they'd be like, no, dude, no, I'm not that. I'm not this. And
We
you
have
guys
no
are like,
shame.
Yeah. Which I think is one of the great things about the genre of music that we live in.
Yeah.
We're just like able to be like, yeah, I am that.
Not afraid to like make fun of ourselves, but
Yeah.
also own it and be the best version of that, if you will.
I think you guys have done it.
Thank you.
Back to this album, the video for Elevated, a huge video. You guys recorded it at Warped Tour. I think this was, you know, it was obviously before, like, I think you joined the tour officially.
Yeah, we weren't
right?
even on the tour at that point.
Right?
Yeah.
So you just did like a couple dates or?
Well, all we did was play one day
One
on
day.
a local stage of the Massachusetts one. Our
you're like-
management at the time, they kind of ran that local stage because they're from that area. And they offered us to play like just a half-hour set in the woods of like it's the only stage that has no barricade, which helped us so much for that. And I don't know how they even allowed that at the time.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, we should shoot the music video for our upcoming thing here. But the song wasn't out, so we didn't play the song. We just played a normal set of all of our older songs, but told as many people to get up on the stage dive, and it made for a great video because then we just followed ourselves around Warped Tour, and it led to us getting the tour, the real tour, the year after that, you know?
Warped Tour it's been, you know, I think it was a huge reason why you guys were so successful and like the trajectory of your band from playing the local stage 2013, then playing main stage in 2016 and like going on your first bus tour. Can you talk a little bit about like how important Warped Tour was to state champs?
Yeah, we absolutely like owe our career to Warped Tour and the cycle that our bands went through and the growth of that every time we've done it. I think 2014 was the first time we did the whole Warped Tour in a van, a Sprinter van. So even then we were excited to not be in our shitty little van at the time. It had like 4 bunks in it. But we were on the Kevin Says stage, which is the smallest stage. And that year was a pretty cool starting year for a few major key bands in our world now. I think that Kevin Says stage had us, Neck Deep, and Beartooth all on that smallest stage
Wow.
at the time. So, and we had all kind of put out our first records and it was all starting to happen. And they didn't have enough security for all 3 of those bands. So like it got to the point where they were like, hey, you guys got to stop like inciting riots on the Kevin Says stage. And there's too much crowd surfing. Like we're going to get sued. So we need to bump somebody up to the main stage halfway through that year. And I think they asked Neck Deep first. It's like, do you guys have your own drum kit? If so, we'll put you up there. They're like, no, we don't. So then they went to Beartooth. You guys have your own drum kit? They're like, no. Then they came to us and we were like, we have our own drum kit. So thank you. So we got like the pity moved up to main stage that year, which was pretty exciting. So we ended up playing a lot, getting used to the bigger crowds at that point. And it set us up to then 2016 when our second album came out, do the main stage run.
Warped Tour is like it's like legitimately training camp for every band.
It's training camp for life, bro. If you can make it through Warped Tour, you can make it through anything, you know?
Before doing Warped Tour and before doing these larger tours, what kind of shows were you guys playing when this album came out?
When this album came out, I think it was still a lot of firehouses and VFWs and small venues with small corner stages, you know? And it was exciting then to have an album out that people cared about and start to see more bodies filling the rooms and a little bit of craziness and attraction and stage dives and maybe starting to be like, okay, maybe it's time to up the room sizes and see what we can do there and get used to some of these bigger rooms.
Yeah, how did you guys like? Was it just word of mouth in the local scene?
A little bit. I think so. I think like we were excited to kind of, we like to always ask like outside promoters and like, cause since we're from Albany, I think we had an advantage to like being from the Northeast and how tight knit all the cities were, and they weren't too far of drives away from each other. So we could go on a weekend run or a week long run and only have to drive an hour or two to go play Boston or Worcester or Hartford, Connecticut or New Hampshire, Providence, Rhode Island. And we could cover a lot of markets that had a lot of people in them, but not have to go too far. Like I don't envy bands that start from the Midwest or the South because they had it a lot harder, needless to say, you know?
At that time, how did you guys notice that you were gaining, like in Derek brain, when were you like, oh shit, like something is starting to happen?
I think we were very fortunate to then, in that same time, start to get a lot of cool support tours as well. That really helped us. Stuff like that Bayside Motion City soundtrack tour. I think we went on the, shortly after that, it was the Sticks and Stones anniversary tour for Newfound Glory that we were also with. And it was us, Cartel and Newfound Glory, which was a pretty cool one for us as well. So that I think helped us kind of gain a lot of new fans, a lot of traction. Our name, our logo being in the same flyer as them too. Who's this band?
Right.
You know, and having people do their research themselves. The internet was huge. I think we were one of the like blossoming breakthrough purevolume.com bands at the time. That was huge. MySpace was really booming still, but on its way out, I would say.
Yeah.
So it was the transition of that into Facebook and to Instagram when that was all starting as well. And we had to adapt with that, you know?
It's interesting because a lot of the bands that we talked to, the internet was not like Instagram didn't exist when they were starting.
It was just starting, I feel like, when we started to hit it, you know?
Yeah. Were you like, all right, this is going to be a thing?
Yeah, but how does it work? And I was also the last one in my band to get an iPhone. I was like always Android guy. So I think I was the last one to get an Instagram.
Were you like stubborn and adamant about it?
I don't think I was. I think I was just poor.
Yeah. you weren't one of those dudes that was like, well, it actually takes better pictures.
No, I was not that guy. I was just like, I'm just hoping I can get some more minutes for my Android over here for my Virgin Mobile Android. And then, and they were pissed at me. I was the green bubble in the group chat and stuff. So I adapted eventually. It took me like, I think my first iPhone I ever got was like the 5C. It was like a blue colored one. Yeah, that was my first iPhone.
My dad was that guy for a while. He was like, it's just a better phone. You can like put it in your computer. I'm like, okay. Dude.
No, I'm not one of those guys.
And then he got one and he was like it's just easy. I'm like, you want to make your life harder or easier?
Yeah.
I'm going to get so much shit for that.
Yeah, the Android,
I'm going to get
the gatekeepers can come out.
I mean, Babs was always Android guy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah, she refused. I think it might be a foreign thing, a foreign person thing. Like, I just think it is. I think it is.
You might be right.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So, Derek, you guys recorded this album, I think, in California, right?
Yeah.
With Sam Pura
Yep.
and Steve Klein.
Yeah, that's right.
Disgraced Steve Klein.
What?
He actually got arrested
For what?
in 2014. He was arraigned on multiple felony charges for child pornography and lewd acts with a minor.
Really?
Yeah, and this was all like all that stuff happened right after the album came out. Which like
Was he freaky? Like, was he in the studio? Were you guys like freaked out? Was he like freaky vibes?
You know what's weird is he was totally normal in the studio. Like I was excited at the time because he was in Newfound Glory. I was like, sick. He wants to help us produce our first album ever. And like I don't really have anything bad to say about the recording process or anything.
Yeah.
I think he was starting to take a lot of time off because something was going down in that same time while we were in the studio. So we were like, he's not showing up today. Something's going on. He was like, yeah, I got stuff to deal with or whatever. So maybe that was all happening at the same time. But I mean, the process we had with him was kind of normal, like as far as making music goes. I thought he had a lot of good like additions to the record, but then afterwards we were like, oh shit, we can't really like talk about you anymore.
Right.
Yeah, he wasn't like sneak. You didn't see him like sneaking around quarters and going to like jacking it.
No. Luckily, none of that. But after the album came out, obviously every interview I did was, can you talk about Steve Klein?
Yeah.
Was anything weird? I was like, no. And management at the time was like, don't talk about Steve.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, now it's just like, I don't know, haven't talked to him in forever. So then I don't know where he's at or anything, but.
All right. Well, Steve Klein aside, can you tell us a little bit about the process of recording this album? I think you guys recorded it where in California? Like
it was at Sam Pura Studio, which is called the Panda Studios in Fremont, California. So in the Bay Area.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like outside of San Francisco. I remember we flew into San Francisco. We were like, we're going to the West Coast for the first time. We're going to stay there for a month. And we stayed in the studio. He had like a bunk bedroom in the front and 2 different studios in it that we had both to ourselves. A little kitchen area, and we were eating ramen noodles and drinking Bud Lights and stoked on everything, on life, and just being out in California making a record. And it was awesome, man. We had such a good time. But at the same time, it was like we were scraping for and still writing in the studio to just get enough songs to make an album. Nowadays, in every album after that, I think it's like we write too much and then have to get rid of stuff, which is kind of better, I think, in my opinion. It's like, that's only going to help you take as many swings as you can and you'll find the home runs in there. But we were scratching and clawing to finish writing lyrics and finish getting an extra song or two to make it 10 or 11 songs on the album back then, just because we were learning and we had no idea. But like at the same time, we were like, this is awesome. I mean, I was overdoing it. Like I said, I lost my voice because I was just excited and adrenaline singing in the studio. But we got there, and I just remember nothing but being excited and not wanting to go to bed at night. I wanted to stay up and keep writing, even though we weren't getting shit done. Like we were just scratching and clawing, and we found it.
We've talked to a couple bands that have come out to California to write albums and or finish their albums, and a lot of the times we found that they've been in like the way that their album sounds now would be way different if they would have stayed home and done it. Do you think that had any sort of influence on like the way that this album sounds?
I've never even thought about it like that. That's actually a really funny take. I think it would sound different. This is good.
That's a good question.
But the thing is, we have some demos of songs that started when we were home that we then took to California. I brought you guys like that no one's ever heard before, the original elevated demo.
Did you really?
Yeah, that maybe we could play.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give it to you guys that you could maybe play. And it's so funny. I sound so young and it sounds completely different. Like it starts with that little riff, but when it kicks in, it's not like a breakdown. It's like fast, like Taking Back Sunday. Like we kind of based it off of A Decade Under the Influence by Taking Back Sunday at first. So when you hear this demo of it, you'll be like, oh, it sounds like that. But then it changed into Newfound Glory, like moshy type easy core vibe instead. Maybe that had to do with Steve being there as well.
Were you guys like pretty aligned on the vision with Sam and Steve when you were making this album, or was there like a lot of push and pull? Like
there was a lot of push and pull with Sam and Steve, oddly, over like the idea of who's a producer and
between
who's
the
not.
two of them.
Yeah, I don't think anybody knew how this shit really worked. Well, Sam was good at what he does. He was coming off of doing like The Story So Far's first album and the second album that I think they worked on together as well. Mm-hmm. But no, there wasn't really like a vision of like, here's what we're going to do. I think a lot of it was since The Story So Far was already thriving as the Pure Noise Records like staple band, that we wanted to make sure that we weren't stepping on their toes a little bit. We wanted to make sure that we had something different that makes State Champs unique to State Champs rather than being like another like version of The Story So Far coming from the same label and agent, and we kind of had the same team. So that was one major thing that we wanted to stray away from.
Dude, that's fucking so strange because we found with a lot of the bands that we've been talking about, producers and labels want to do like a carbon copy and find like the thing that sounds exactly like that, but better. So it's interesting that you guys were like, all right, we're aware of that, but it is a lot of like older bands.
Well, I liked The Story So Far a lot. So, and like, I wanted to like be like them initially when State Champ started. We signed to the same record label. We got the same agent. So it was like the label, like Jake from Pure Noise was like, who do you like? What do you want to sound like? I was like, I love The Story So Far. I think you're doing something great with them. I'd love to sound like them. He was like, great. You can't do that because like they're already doing that. What else do you like? I was like, well, I like more poppy stuff. And I feel like I got this different type of singing, this type of voice where it's like a little more polished and like produced and that kind of thing. He was like, great, let's go with that. Let's make it like have aggression and have attitude, but also polished, produced and poppy sounding, you know? So we found that middle ground.
Joni wrote down, every review I've read has mentioned how great of a singer Derek is. Many of them being like, it sounds like The Story So Far, but Derek is a better singer than Parker Cannon.
I think it's just a different style.
Totally different.
It is
But
really
I
different.
don't disagree here. I think that's dead
It's
on.
a different style. I didn't want to be like tough guy, finger
Yeah.
pointy, but I was doing that, but also trying to like, I don't know, be a pop star. If you will.
2013, I feel like was such an interesting year for pop punk. We're doing another album today. We're going to do The Wonder Years, The Greatest Generation.
Yeah.
It also came out in 2013. While it is pop punk, I feel like it's so different than The Finer Things. And that is, both of those albums are also so different than, you know, The Story So Far. It's crazy how big pop punk was at the time. And it had this like crazy moment in 2013. And then I feel like everybody kind of like went separate ways and there's like subdivisions of pop
Yeah,
punk.
because that's what like the third wave, if you will, of emo and pop punk or whatever you want to call it. But even though there can be so many people that'll stereotype all of those albums and those bands together, they all sound like the same shit, you know, like, but then again, the nerds of the world can be like, no, there's this area of that and there's this and there's diagrams of it all. And I've seen them.
It's the most annoying thing.
It really is.
And it's why like I really like every episode, I'm like, these fucking music reviewers, like Jesus Christ, like just it's all it's like straight opinion.
But it created buzz and it created a lot of like push and pull and arguments on the internet, which was only good things for us, honestly. It's only putting more eyes on the band and alternative press picking apart everything and absolutepunk.net picking apart in the forums going nuts. It was really all good for us.
Dude, I really like the icebergs, like those iceberg charts. Like I really do like that. And I've learned a lot from them, from people being annoying
silly.
assholes.
It's really silly.
Yeah, like I've learned a lot and I've found bands that I'm like, I didn't know this existed and would be in this category of anything. So they have been helpful, but I think it's just the attitude in which music reviewers write that I hate, where there's like, I know everything and you guys don't know anything.
And everyone listened to me and this is the review. And this is what this,
Yeah,
like, even
it's
if you
like
haven't heard this, you listen to me and let that sway whether you're even going to go listen to it on your own or not.
And they walk it back a lot. Like a lot of the times they'll like an album will come out and then 10 years down the line, they'll put out a review of the album and be like, it is 100% different from what the original review was. So it's really hard to say like when an album comes out, if it'll stand the test of time. I think that this is one of those albums that did do that, at least from the reviews then to the reviews now. Like nobody reviewed it now and was like, actually it sucked. Like I was wrong.
We come from this weird time where it was post TRL and radio mainstream rock. And it was before TikTok virality era. So we didn't have an Ocean Avenue or a Dear Maria, that we could lean on and let that be our success driven song. We had to do it via touring and like kind of a little more organic and kind of had to grind for it. That's what kind of motivated us. Like, how do we stand the test of time and be like an iconic band without that, having that one track to lean on or whatnot? And we still talk about that. It's like, how do we keep that shit going? And somehow we're just still riding.
You guys have done it.
Yeah.
That Rolling Stone article that just came out. That was a great piece on you guys.
That was special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know that I didn't know that Secrets was a cover? I thought you guys wrote that song.
Wait, you mean Stitches?
Stitches, yeah. I thought Stitches.
I was like, Secrets. Hopefully not.
I thought Stitches. I didn't know Stitches was a cover.
So many people come to me and say, my favorite song of yours is Stitches. I love that song. It's like, that song should be on the radio.
I was in the office, like listening to you guys. I was looking at all the Pop Goes Punk stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is Stage Champs on this?
You know, what's so funny is I met Shawn Mendes at a party one time and he came up to me. He was like, I've had a couple fans come up to me and say they love my cover of State Champs.
No way.
And I was like, you're probably lying and you're just trying to make conversation with me. And that's cool. But even if there was one person, I'll take that. That's
really nice of him. I don't want to bring it back to the producers, but I just put a couple things in my head or that popped in my head. Did they own the studio?
Yeah, I think so.
And it was called Panda Studio?
Yeah.
Well, Sam did.
Sam did. That's Sam's
the okay one. Yeah. Steve is the bad guy.
Okay. All right. Because there is a connection in that world with things named Panda.
Oh, are we going back to conspiracy
I don't want
theories?
to.
I want to hear this now.
It's really dark. It's like one of the darkest ones.
Maybe too dark.
Everybody, I mean, you probably get put on a list if you look it up. But I listen to a bunch of conspiracy theory podcasts. Okay. But I was like, oh my God. I was like, I just put it together in my head.
All right. We do a section on here with our standout tracks. So what are standout tracks for you? What are maybe some like under the radar tracks that aren't the biggest songs off the album, but you personally have a connection to? Or
well, I think the standout track is Elevated, which is the opening song. It was the lead single for it. And probably the one that kind of means the most and lyrically had the most like concept to it, because that song's actually about Tyler, guitar player Tyler. Everyone thinks it's like a breakup song. Like, why can't you see this is where you need to be? Stay with me, my loved one. It's like not about that. It's about Tyler wanting to quit the band, actually. He came to me and pulled me aside and said, I don't think I can do this anymore. It's eating at me. This was before the album even came out, while we were still writing for it. And I was like, damn, man, that actually is pretty tough because you're my best friend and I can't do this without you. So that's what Elevated's about. Like, I need you with me here. We need to do this together or we're not going to do it at all. So that still means a lot to me. That's why when you're asking about, is it weird singing those songs still? I'm like, no, because that still hits hard to this day that we've done it. And like, we're still together 14 years later. Other songs, though, maybe like a deeper cut. The last track on the album, like Easy Enough, it's called. It's the only like ballady type song on there. I still write out lyrics for that song for kids to get tattooed. Like, that's probably the most that I like. There's a line, you've got more fight left in you. It's like, I still get asked to this day, will you please write that lyric out to me? It means so much. Let me tell you the story of why it means so much to me. So that one's special too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Any of those stories stick out to you?
It's funny, like not specifically, but like on a broader term, it's like, I didn't really have like a concept personal to me that like, you know, still sits with me like Elevated for Easy Enough. But I've heard so many stories of like, here's why this lyric or that song means so much to me. And it has nothing to do with what I was thinking about when we were writing the song. And that's what's cool about, you know, the relatability factor to the fans is like, man, I wasn't thinking about that at all, or that's not the concept. But like, now that that means so much to you, I'm going to like think about that moving forward. But nothing like really specific. It's just cool how it pans out like that, you know?
Have you talked in interviews about how you convinced Tyler to stay in it?
I don't think so. Like,
What did you do? Were you like, you can't leave? Like, you can't, like, you're not doing that?
I
You're like,
threatened
guess
him.
what?
No, I don't think so. I think we were on tour when he initially said, I don't want to do this anymore. I just don't think my mental health can handle it. And mental health wasn't even really talked about still at that time. It wasn't like a huge thing. And I've never really dealt with it myself too much up until like maybe kind of recently. So back then I was like, I don't know, man. We're in a band, dude. Let's do this. But then I thought about it, and like it expressed via the song, and like that was my way of kind of saying, please stay in the band. And then I didn't tell him it was about him until the album came out. I don't think nobody asked about what my lyrics were about back then. Nobody was checking up on me or editing my lyrics. We were just spewing bullshit back then. So it came out, and everybody must have been listening, and maybe it was an interview or something. I finally went to Tyler. I was like, Tyler, you know this? You know that's about you, right? He was like, oh shit, dude. And I think maybe that was a light bulb moment for him. He was like, wow, that's cool, man. Like, let's do this shit. Ride the wave.
That's
know?
awesome.
Yeah. We talk whenever it's like a late night or we're like, you know, feeling proud of where we're at. We're always like, dude, Elevated. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a really sweet story.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
That's like a really nice.
Our brotherhood
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, just bros.
You guys have that is really, really
We are the
sweet.
only two original members in the band still. So we take that and run with it. Like, we made it through, you know, we're still here.
Which one of Ryan's bands is your favorite? Like out
State
of
champs.
Yeah, there you go.
out of not state champs.
I support everything that Ryan does. I just think he's got to like pick and choose his battles a little bit. You know?
I wanted to. I was
Jack of all trades.
I was literally trying to get a shirt printed before this interview that just said Ryan Scott Graham on it.
Ryan Scott Graham's bands.
Just wanted a shirt that said Ryan Scott Graham.
We should all go on tour together. That's would be my punishment to him. We're gonna
making him do every single
speak low if you speak love, pile of love.
Yeah.
State champs. Is there another one?
I don't know if there's another one.
Okay, but no, there is another.
There
one.
is
I forget the name. So all 4 bands, and he has to play all night.
Here's the thing. I like
And then he has a vintage market like outside.
and he's got a
too.
pop-up shop.
I like all of them. Is the thing.
They are all good. He's a
really-
talented cat, man. I can't knock it for anything that he wants to do with all that stuff. He's a creative being. He loves making music all the time. I'm a little more reserved. I'm not a person that wants to pick up a guitar and write a song every day. He loves to do that, and I got to give him credit for it, you know?
You mentioned to me the songwriting has shifted now, and it's a lot more of you and Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously Ryan did not work on the finer things.
Yeah, he came in right after.
But how has the writing process changed within the band throughout the ages?
It's a lot more collaborative now. I think we can all get into a room and talk about a concept of a song first while we're kind of working on riffs and instrumentals of a song, rather than like, let's make this instrumental thing without even thinking about lyrics or melodies or anything. We're kind of doing things at the same time now, where it's like, let's work on a verse and a chorus, instrumentals and lyrics and melodies, and then decide if it's good or not. So I think that's a big thing that we do. Or we'll write, for this last album in particular, we did like 40 of those. Verse, chorus, like produce it out with lyrics, with melodies, and then be like, great, is it good? Do we finish it? If not, scrap it, move on, do it again. That's totally different from where we started. It was like, okay, full 3 minutes and 30 seconds, but there's no lyrics or vocals at all. Now, Derek, go do the thing. You know, it's totally different. It's like flip the script a little bit.
Are there any parts on the finer things that you're like listening back and you're like, ooh, I wish I would have done something different or said something different? Like, is there any, you know, we ask a lot. It's like, would you change anything? And a lot of the times it's like, no, because it is what it is. It made it what it is. And that's what makes it's relatable to everybody. But I know, you know, probably listening back and being in a band and musical, you're like, Like, is there any like cringe shit on there for you?
Not cringe shit, but I think it's the producer in me now that goes back and listens to that album and goes, man, these intros of these songs are like 45 seconds long. And you've already lost interest of people. I'm a guy that's going to listen to a song, and if I'm not hearing a vocal within like 15 seconds, I'm probably going to skip it. There's songs like Simple Existence, Over the Line, Mind Bottled, Critical. Those are all intros that are like 40 seconds long before even I start singing. And
Dude, you need the time. This album's only 36 minutes.
I know it's a short album. So I think, if we cut any of that out, it would have been like a 20-minute album. So I guess I don't regret it. But now I'm like, God damn, start singing already.
Yeah, you know, been in Joyce Manor territory.
Just like punk songs.
Album.
Yeah,
dude, but they like when I was reading there a lot of the reviews and comparing to other albums that got knocked for that stuff, people were saying that they actually appreciated it with this.
Okay.
Which is, I understand what you're saying. And normally I would pretty much tend to agree with you.
It's me thinking about it from a totally different perspective, like a songwriter pop, perspective, if you will. Like, no one's going to write a pop song that's on the radio like that at this point, but that's not what it was about. We're a pop punk band. We've got a punk rock state of mind. So just rock out for a little bit before you start, you give them any vocals or whatever.
I think that's what that's what they were thinking. And they also I think it gave people a chance to let the album breathe and go into like song into song is what I was gathering.
Yeah, I guess it's more like the intro is the interlude from the last song into the next song. That's me saving it now.
Yeah.
That was what we were trying to do.
Dude, you're walking it back.
It's not what we were trying to do at all.
Going into When We Were Young, you guys are playing this album front to back. We've talked to a few bands like All American Rejects. They were just like, yeah, they said we're playing our self-titled, but we are not.
Dude, I heard this. I heard about this. They're actually not playing their album.
No, they're not.
That's crazy. I feel like
you guys are actually playing this though.
I've seen the contract, and the contract says play the album, so we will be playing the album.
Yeah, you want to get that money. Imagine they just don't pay them.
I'm not putting myself in any position to not make the money.
Yeah, you're playing the album for the record. Legally, you are playing the album.
Well, and also I think it's gonna be cool. I think it's gonna be fun. Do I think it's a little different doing it from in a festival setting opposed to like when we did those shows at the end of last year? That was in a 1,000 cap, no barricade, stage dive central club setting where it was our diehard fans sold out. I know we're going to be playing to a lot of people that have never heard this album still at When We Were Young, maybe never heard of State Champs, which is a great opportunity for us still. And that's great. I consider ourselves maybe one of the younger still bands on the festival lineup and maybe newer bands out of all of those bands on the festival lineup, even though we're not a new band anymore. So I want to make sure that we can still give it to the crowd and win over the fans while also catering to the people that know the album and want to hear the album. So that's going to be a cool dynamic thinking about the set there.
With that in mind, do you wish that you were playing like Around the World and Back?
I wish that we were playing a greatest hits set.
Greatest hits, yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I kind of would rather do that rather than the festival play. After doing those shows, those club shows, I'm like, sick. We got the finer things out of there. Like, we're good. Like, maybe I'd do like a combination of the two albums or something. That would be kind of cool. Just like an anniversary of our first two albums or just greatest hits. It's a different setting. It's a different feeling doing it to the festival crowd. I'd rather, So, but we're going to run with it. We're going to have a great time still. It's going to be fun.
What if you played the backtracks to the greatest hits, but played the album in full?
Well, since the album's so short,
yeah,
I think we can still sneak in a greatest hit or two at the end.
Hits.
Like, I think our set is 40 minutes. So if we crank the album out, we can probably still play Secrets.
Especially if you chop some of the intros down.
Yeah.
You got some extra time.
Maybe we medley a few just to like cut some time. And then we're like, all right, we got 3 left and go into Secrets and go into Everybody But You, All Yours History, maybe. We'll see. We got to make sure nothing goes wrong, too. We're notorious for having things go wrong, technically, at festivals because it's a shit show up there. But our crew's got shit together. We should be fine.
I don't want to keep you too long. And I know that this is actually probably like one of my favorite ones we've done with somebody in here. Yeah, it's great. Like this feels like the right thing to do.
I mean, also we're just hanging out, which is nice.
You did mention that you're like, we're like probably one of the younger bands on there. And I think in general in the scene, you guys are, even though you're not a 10 years old band.
We're established at this point.
But you're still considered a young band. Like you're still like, as far, whenever we talk to anybody, when we talk to agents, when we talk to all these, they're still like, oh yeah, like State Champs. People associate you with being a young band. And I think that says a lot about the music that you guys write and a lot about your band and you guys as people, like, which is a good thing. That's a good thing.
And you're 5 albums in.
I know it's funny because it's like, damn, some bands are over at that point after 4 or 5 albums. But it's like, yeah, I've always considered us like a young, newer band. But in reality, it's like, now we're all grown ass men playing youthful sounding songs. So therefore, people think it's a young band. And I'm sure that's the case with a lot of bands that sound like us or in our world. But I think there's just something to be said about that. It's cool. It makes me feel good about that we still have youth with us, but I have to check myself every once in a while and be like, you're not a young band anymore. You can't party all night and you can't not take care of your voice out there on the road too. So make sure you take care of your shit too at the same time.
I still act like I'm 15.
I do too. I'm
still
a baby.
think the things that are funny when I was 15, I still think
Well,
are
I'm the
now.
youngest in the band still, so I pull the baby card all the time. But I'm 31, bro. You're not a baby. You can't pull the singer diva card anymore.
I still think poo poo pee pee jokes are funny and my back hurts.
Won't we all? Yeah, my back hurts right now.
All right. Well, I think that's about it for my notes here on the finer things. Is there anything that we didn't cover that?
I think it's just exciting that we're still here doing it and that it's been 12 years, 14 years as a band. If you've never heard of the band, come out still and see the live show, even if it's at When We Were Young. Maybe this will become your favorite album. And what's great about now and what we're doing is we haven't strayed too far from the path every time we put out an album. We've just found better ways to do what we've always been doing. So this new album that's going to come out in November is very rooty in a sense that some of these tracks could have ended up on an album like The Finer Things, but the songwriting is better. And I think we just sound the best that we ever have too. So it's nice to pay tribute and also let that carry us into where we are as a band today. So it's going to be a cool new chapter as well.
Well, dude,
Fun.
the songs I've heard from that album they're
I'll send you guys the album. By the way.
it's really great, and I love the attitude that you guys took going into that and doing this.
We're finally in self-titled era too, which is kind of exciting. Usually bands get there by like album 3. We made it to album 5, but that's because we wanted to. It's time.
I think that's a really cool thing. It's just kind of goes to show, your guys' personalities and who you are as a band. Like that in itself, you're self-aware.
Yeah, always.
Dude,
Got to stay a little bit humble,
You're bro.
We'll have to have you back maybe next year, maybe towards the end of the year after the album comes out. Love to do a deep dive on the new record.
Yeah, we'll do that, and we'll recap the new chapter in the new year that is 2025. Jesus Christ.
I know.
The only thing that we didn't do was, if you like this, you might like this.
Yeah.
But let's do it for Derek.
Derek,
Okay.
if you like the finer things, what else do you think people would like?
In general or in music?
Dude, let's do in general, but usually it's just music.
Oh, I was going to say keg stands.
That is true. No, that's true. We did that when we shot that video. We did like a bunch of keg stands.
Right, for the Everybody But You video. Like we essentially like summarized the feeling that is State Champs when you listen to the band,
Yeah, I always try and put like artists that maybe you wouldn't associate. Like if Spotify doesn't say, "Hey, here's State Champs. Here's another band that is on the Spotify thing." I always try and go a little bit like outside that realm. But is there anything that you think that if somebody was to like this album, they might like this?
Or if there's anybody like younger, like doing something cool right now that you've been listening to a lot that you're like, fuck yeah.
Younger that we've been listening to that's like newer on the scene?
Sure.
Anything, dude. This is the first time we've stumped them the entire
You did.
time.
You stumped me
Yeah,
now.
this is the first
Because I'm
one.
not listening to new young bands right now.
Here's what Joni wrote. She said, Life's Going Great by Games We Play. She said, it sounds like if State Champs hated themselves a little more and wrote songs about loving their girlfriends.
Wow, that's a dig at me because I only write about shitty exes. That's what I'm good at, all right?
Shout out to
But that's very right. I would say a little bit of Games We Play, a little bit of Young Culture, a little bit of, I don't know.
really like those guys.
Yeah.
I really like Young Culture.
Yeah, man. They're doing it right now. They're the next one.
I put this band Weave. I don't know if you've heard Weave.
I need to.
But it's not exactly like you guys, but I think that it's in the same realm. And I always want to give people something that like maybe you gotta connect the dots.
I'm gonna put one out there. Honey Revenge.
Mm.
I'm big into that band right now. I think what they got going on is great. It's female fronted State Champs with pop edge and a whole new spin on life. I love it.
Cool.
It's great.
It's a great endorsement for that. It's like literally, it's a great. It sounds like that's the PR junket of the thing that they send.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Derek, thank you so much for joining us on CD Burners. Guys, thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you next week with a deep dive on another album. And that is it.
World peace.
Congratulations on being the first full guest, the full guest first.
First,
It's like the first time we did an album.
Yeah, we
with
usually
the guest.
do
In
like
studio,
we
too.
usually do like our chatting portion, and then we go and do like a virtual interview.
oh yeah, because you talk amongst yourselves, and
Yeah.
then you have the interview like peek in, and
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a great place for me to talk shit.
Yeah, I know, because that you can like, okay, now we can just take that and be really nice.
Well,
now.
it kind of sucks because like sometimes we want to say mean things about the albums.
I was
but we're
waiting
like,
for that.
We sometimes we venture into saying mean stuff, and then we realize, oh, we have to interview the artist after, and then they generally like tend to listen to it.
Yeah. But that's fine then. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It mixes it up. You should let them hear it before you interview them.
They tend to really enjoy it. Is the thing. Like we've never really gotten a complaint.
That's good.
I did get a complaint today from Quinn from The Used.
Oh, really?
He was like-
they shot back.
He was like very nice. He was like I liked hearing your guys' takes. This was like really fun, and I liked Feldman's interview. However, there were some wild inaccuracies.
Oh no, it's funny too. I was thinking about like, oh, should it like normally somebody's like, is there anything you don't want to talk about, like about this interview or about that era? Didn't even think about the Steve stuff. Like,
Oh, we
for
can cut
this.
it out if
I
you
don't.
want.
Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
I was.
I don't think you said.
don't think you said anything
I was
bad.
almost gonna ask like the team before. I was like, do I talk about Steve?
We can send it to you, and you can decide.
I didn't know if that was okay. I don't know where he's at or if people still like don't
I
like him.
honestly
I'm
don't
sure they
think-
don't, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll send it to you, and
Yeah.
you guys can have final.
All you can do is
approval.
share your experience.
And once
Yeah.
you said it, I was like, oh.
Oh yeah, you forgot.
All right.
Okay,
Goodbye.
Yeah.
we did it, Joe.